Zodiac signs and how they handle heartbreak. Check timestamps for your sign. Aries. Their first instinct is usually movement. New plans, harder workouts, spontaneous nights out. Anything that keeps the silence from becoming too loud. They may act relieved, even energized, because heartbreak feels easier when it can be turned into action. What they struggle with most is not always losing the person. It is losing the ability to change the outcome. That helplessness can make them reach out impulsively, only to regret showing they still care. Real healing begins when they stop treating sadness like something to conquer and let themselves feel hurt without turning the pain into another competition they must somehow win. Taurus. The hardest moments often arrive during ordinary routines. A familiar meal, a quiet drive, or one empty side of the bed can make the loss feel new again. They may keep gifts, messages, and shared habits longer than anyone knows, not because they cannot move on, but because those things once represented safety. What hurts is not only the person leaving, it is the life that no longer feels familiar. They rarely rush recovery, and forcing them only makes them hold on tighter. Healing starts when they create new comforts, new rituals, and a sense of stability that belongs entirely to them. Gemini. One day, the breakup makes perfect sense. The next, a single sentence sends them back through the entire relationship. They process heartbreak by talking, questioning, joking, and retelling the story from every possible angle. Friends may hear every detail except the one that wounded them most. Because they can explain their feelings so clearly, people often assume they have already moved on. In reality, they may be using words to stay one step ahead of the pain. Healing begins when they stop searching for the perfect explanation and accept that some endings cannot be solved. They have to be felt. Cancer. What lingers most is often the emotional world they built around the relationship. The private jokes, the nightly check-ins, the plans that never happened, and the feeling of being known can be harder to lose than the person themselves. They may revisit old photos or conversations, not simply to stay stuck, but to understand how something comforting became painful. Even after being hurt, they may protect the other person's image and minimize what happened. Healing begins when they stop confusing emotional history with emotional safety and choose what feels healthy now, rather than what once felt like home to them. Leo. The glow-up can happen before the grief is even acknowledged. Better photos, busier weekends, and a polished, "I'm doing great" appearance may become a way to reclaim control. Beneath that confidence, heartbreak can quietly bruise their sense of being chosen and valued. They may refuse to reach out, not because they feel nothing, but because rejection already cost them enough dignity. What looks like pride is often self-protection. Healing begins when they stop using attention as proof of worth, and remember that one person's inability to value them does not reduce what they genuinely bring to a secure, mutual relationship. Virgo. Almost immediately, the mind starts building a case file. Messages are reread, timelines are reconstructed, and small changes in tone suddenly feel like clues. They may blame themselves because self-blame creates the comforting illusion that the ending could have been prevented. If they find the mistake, maybe they can make sure it never happens again. Productivity can also become an escape, with work and routines keeping every feeling neatly contained. But grief refuses to follow a system. Healing begins when they stop editing the past and accept that not every ending happened because they failed to notice, fix, or perfect something. Libra. What feels missing is often more than romance. It is the shared rhythm of daily life, the messages, the plans, the decisions, and the comfort of being part of a we. They may keep reopening the conversation because they can see both sides and believe one more honest discussion could restore balance. That empathy can become dangerous when understanding someone's reasons turns into excusing behavior that caused real harm. On the outside, they seem composed. Internally, they may still be negotiating with the ending. Healing begins when they accept that closure does not require mutual agreement, and peace can be chosen alone. Scorpio. Losing the relationship can feel like losing the only place where they allowed themselves to be fully seen. They may cut contact, delete everything, and disappear from the other person's life, yet remain emotionally connected for much longer. Betrayals are replayed, Hidden meanings are examined, and silence can become its own form of attachment. They do not forget easily because forgetting can feel like surrendering the truth of what happened. Healing begins when they realize release is not weakness, forgiveness, or pretending the pain was acceptable. It is choosing not to let someone who left continue controlling their inner world. Sagittarius. Distance usually feels like the fastest route back to themselves. A trip, a packed calendar, a new crowd, or a sudden obsession with the future can create enough space to breathe. For a while, it works. Then the sadness returns through a song, a quiet night, or an unexpectedly familiar place. They may not only miss the relationship, they may miss the adventurous, hopeful version of themselves that existed inside it. Humor helps them survive, but it can also hide what still hurts. Healing begins when they stop confusing escape with freedom and learn that feeling grief will not trap them forever. Capricorn. Everything may look impressively under control. Responsibilities are handled, belongings are divided, schedules are adjusted, and life keeps moving as though nothing has happened. They often place heartbreak in a private compartment and tell themselves they will deal with it later. The problem is that later can become months of functioning without truly recovering. People praise their strength while having no idea how much they are carrying. Healing begins when they stop judging feelings by whether they are useful and allow someone trustworthy to see the part of them that cannot be organized, scheduled, or solved through discipline alone forever. Aquarius. The ending may be understood intellectually long before it is felt emotionally. They can explain the incompatibility, accept the facts, and sound almost detached. Then the grief arrives later as sleeplessness, irritability, withdrawal, or a sudden urge to disappear. Space is often how they process intense emotion, not proof that they never cared. They may miss someone deeply and still decide that reconnecting would repeat the same damage. Healing begins when they stop treating emotion like evidence that their decision was wrong. The mind may already know why it ended. The heart simply needs more time to catch up fully. Pisces. The relationship can continue in imagination long after it has ended in real life. Conversations are rewritten, apologies are imagined, and unfinished plans become entire futures that still feel emotionally possible. They grieve not only what happened, but everything that almost happened. Their compassion can also make them absorb the other person's pain and excuse behavior that left lasting wounds. This is not foolishness. It is what happens when hope becomes attached to potential. Healing begins when they separate empathy from self-abandonment and accept that love can be genuine without being sustainable. Something can be beautiful and still need to end. Conclusion. Heartbreak does not always look like crying or begging someone to return. Sometimes it looks like a full calendar, perfect photos, overthinking, silence, reinvention, or becoming so productive that nobody notices the pain. Every sign protects a different part of itself after love ends, but appearing unaffected is not the same as being healed. Which section felt uncomfortably accurate for you? And what is the strangest thing you did while trying to move on? Share your sign and your story in the comments, and follow for more Zodiac insights without the recycled stereotypes.